Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mikal and I'm an Eritrean American photographer based in New York City, and that is why you can literally see my whole apartment right now. I think this is my first time recording with this view because I keep trying to find angles and film at certain types of the day, and it's just like I just need to film this, and this is where the light's nice. Literally my workspace, my fridge, my shoes, mind you they're off the floor because it's clean in here, and my restroom and the front door, and Giz. Yeah, anyway, so I've been working on my photo project HABESHA for about 4 years now, since 2021. However, this is a project that really stems from just like lifelong pondering around my identity, culture, language, my academic background in African affairs, and my lived experiences as an Eritrean American woman. So, how do you structure a photo project? I broke this down into 3 different points, and I'm just really excited to share what I've learned, especially as I look forward to my exhibit in August. It took a lot of overcoming my own fears, overcoming external obstacles, and just putting in the work to get to this point. So if you are someone who's interested in starting a project, whether it's photography or just another sort of creative project, I'm excited to have you here, and I hope that this video gives you some encouragement and some insight on how to best go about that process. Point number 1 is to know your why. As I have talked about extensively on social media, my why with the HABESHA Project is about community and connection. Identity, belonging, culture, these are things that I think about constantly, and the conversations that I see around these topics are quite limited in my opinion. So instead of directly critiquing those conversations, I wanted to start a new conversation. But even if you can't understand my exact experience as an Eritrean, we all understand the relationship between language and identity. And so if you have a topic that you want to discuss, I encourage you stay rooted in the specificity of your story. If you know your why and if you stay consistent with the work, I promise you, you are gonna attract the right people who also resonate with your story. If you feel strongly about something, someone else feels strongly about that something too. And it's not that your opinions and feelings towards something can't change either, because my words, or rather my feelings towards the word HABESHA, have changed significantly through my conversations. But again, it's staying rooted in your why. Language and identity and connection was my why. Number 2 is to plan. Working against a deadline holds yourself accountable to have a certain amount of progress in a certain period of time. And you don't have to have a finished idea or a finished product, but forcing yourself to make that progress is the work you have to do. With my photography, if I look back at my photos, I knew I had an eye, but I knew I had to put in the reps. I had to continue taking photos and it would eventually get better. Did I understand how it would get better? No, because I was like, I have great taste. I know I have a good eye. Why is it not working? But practice makes perfect. And that's when it comes into how dedicated you are to your craft, how much time you put towards your craft. Of course, I guess that's the difference between, what do they say, like talent and success? Is that the saying? I'm gonna say that. That's the difference between talent and success, right? A lot of people have talent, but not a lot of people have the discipline and the dedication to be successful. And in that same breath, I'm also going to say, define what success means to you. Because for me, being successful in this project wasn't getting a brand sponsorship. Being successful in this project for me was having people in my community feel seen, heard, and resonating with the content. What I want to see is people have more evolved conversations around identity that hold space for more connection and consequently more unity. I would say plan, at least have a deadline, plan to reach out to X amount of people to ask them about their work, plan to scout X amount of locations if you want to do an event. Everything you do should be planned to a certain extent. With my HABESHA project, what I wish I planned better was editing my photos and my interviews. The process of doing interviews is quite extensive, and I got a process down. Like, I will say that I'm very proud that my folders are clean. Essentially what I'm trying to say is that it's a lot of work, and I wouldn't get bogged down into the details either and over plan. If you feel overwhelmed, plan it week by week. If you're taking it day by day, do day by day. but find a way to measure your progress because you don't want to stay stagnant ever. You do not have to have the most professional equipment or the most professional execution. I was using all types of audio forms because I was working in the nonprofit sector and I didn't have the cash to buy new microphones, which I now have. But you're gonna hear different audio qualities throughout these interviews, and it is what it is. Done is better than perfect, and don't be so hard on yourself and try to get everything down, like the branding, this, that. Think about what is the work. In this project, if all else failed, I have these beautiful portraits, and that is the work. You do not want to plan to fail, so don't fail to plan. My final point is to share your work. And sharing your work doesn't have to be only social media. Sharing your work is talking about it with your family. Sharing your work is leaving your business card at local businesses. Sharing your work is when people ask you, what do, you say you're a photographer with full confidence. If you take photos, if you like taking photos, if you want to take more photos, you're a photographer, point blank, period. And on the point of social media, I do want to say that visibility on social media is not the ultimate metric of success. I know plenty of creatives who have less followers than they follow, who have private accounts, who aren't even on social media, who have consistent and high-paying clients. Again, I think that just goes into not comparing yourself. The creative industry, the creative path, there's no set path, and you have no idea what opportunities are coming. And I think there's a balance there. Like, definitely don't live in Delulu land completely where you're like, oh my God, one deal is going to completely change my life. I think the higher the stakes and the higher the paychecks, the higher the sacrifices. So definitely know your value, know your worth. And I think sharing your work before you're notable, before you've shot that big celebrity, before you've done that big campaign, sharing your stuff beforehand only solidifies that, one, you know your worth, two, you know how to communicate it, and three, when other people come to see your work after that big opportunity, they see that you've already been putting in the work. Your work also isn't gonna resonate with everyone, so it's also great to do rejection therapy. You're gonna receive a lot of no's. You're gonna have a lot of people tell you your ideas don't make sense. I'm actually gonna put a TikTok here where I went home for the holidays and I was talking about my photo project with my family. Basically, my aunt was making fun of me because she was like, haha, like Mikal didn't know that Oromo people don't consider themselves Habesha, as if that's something I should have known. And then I have an Ethiopian family member say, well, of course they're Habesha. And that ended up having or resulting in a 2-hour long conversation after dinner. And I'm like, you see, everyone is assuming the same understanding around certain language, and that then shapes their identity and how they relate to others and understand their identity. If we could only just listen to one another and learn from one another and learn more about each other, maybe we could then have more unity. Close out, stay focused on your measure of success. The industry is noisy. Gatekeepers will keep moving the goalpost, but you have to understand that your value is intrinsic. And honestly, if you have haters, like I have had many in my comments, please take it as a sign that you're doing work that is so good that people can't ignore it. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time.